Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So this video is to comment on the protests that have been going on around cinemas in the UK for screening that film, The Lady of Heaven. Now, just looking into the background of it, just a few points I want to raise. And I know Five Pillars did probably many other websites and media outlets, they wrote an article about it. Pure, unadulterated, sectarian filth. Now, when you know the writer of this, and you go on the IMDb app, that's what I did. Anything to do with films, because I like watching decent, good movies, you go on the IMDb app, and you can see, okay, the cast, you can see the writer being Sheikh Al-Habib. And by Sheikh Al-Habib, what they mean is Yasir Al-Habib. Now, Yasir Al-Habib, this individual, this so-called scholar from Al-Kuwait, who resides in London, a few years ago he became, notorious for, astaghfirullah, for cursing Ummahat al-Mu'mineen, and Ummahat al-Mu'mineen, Aisha radiyallahu anha. It's a typical thing that the very extreme right of Shia theology and thought do. It's done in their books, it's well known. I'm not just making anything up, just go and open a lot of their books. It could be even Ummahat al-Kutub, the big major well-known books from Al-Kafi, etc. And they speak very negatively about Aisha, and that's well known, let's not get into that. However, to have this individual as the writer, the main screenwriter of this movie, sums it all up for you. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to figure out the rest. This person is a dangerous sectarian individual, very, very, divisive and inciting a lot of hatred towards Sunnis, etc., in what he believes to be the haqq, right? Because every hizb, kullu hizbin bima ladayhim farihun. As Allah tells us, every party and group, what they have, are very happy. They're always saying, we're on the haqq, right? So this person, this foolish individual who curses our mother Aisha, and for whatever reasons, and he has istidlal, meaning, he has a particular methodology of interpretation when he looks at the Quran. They've obviously been funded. So he's been funded, he's the main screenwriter, he's been funded to make this movie. And the movie, I've watched the clip, I do want to watch maybe other parts as well. I've got the gist of it. And some people, I know you're going to say, oh, bruv, you're not even watched the movie, don't judge. Listen, by watching a few clips, reading about it, looking on IMDb, reading about, the background, etc., the cast, the writer, you know what's going on, yeah? And by the way, it looks, the actual trailer looks horrendous. So I don't think it will be even an entertaining film in that respect, but it's the content. The content is problematic. Shia Islam, Sunni Islam, the split happened right after the Prophet Muhammad's demise, but more so, after the fitna, they speak about the al-qital wal-fitna bain al-sahaba, the fighting that broke out due to leadership. Who should be the leader and the ruler amongst the believers? Amir al-Mu'mineen. And again, that's well known in our history, we can read about it. But my issue is this. These people have got their funding from who? Also, depicting the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, clearly Yasir al-Habib, which many people in the Muslim world call Yasir al-Khabith, Yasir, not the beloved, but Yasir, the disgusting person, because of his disgusting opinions and vitriol and disgusting mannerisms in speaking about someone so beloved to us, our mother Aisha radhiyallahu anha. This person has also been funded by someone. There's an agenda. They have a specific agenda and they're following it. The agenda is to spread Shiaism, Shia Islam. And they thought maybe to themselves, wow, we got all this money, inshallah, هذه نصرة لآل بيت محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. This is a victory for the people of, and the family of Prophet Muhammad صلى الله عليه وسلم. This is what they think, this is how they think. And they think this is the best form of propaganda and da'wah ila التشيع الحق. صح ولا لا? This is how they think, man. This is the truth, and we can go to all different cinemas around the country and we can finally spread the message of truth of Ahl al-Bayt alayhim salam, etc. We said, radiyallahu anhum, la bas inshallah, we love them just as much as anyone else loves them. You know, this is the family of the Prophet. How could you not love the family of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Along we love the Sahaba. They don't have a problem, and they traditionally, the Shia have not had a problem depicting images of the Prophet Muhammad, Ali radiallahu anhu. I mean, not so much Prophet Muhammad, but more so Ali, etc. In this particular instance, there's been an exception. I'm sure they found a fatwa from somewhere by Sheikh Yasser al-Khabith himself, right? He did it himself. However, what you also notice is the racial element. The racial element being, you know, very, even in the pictures historically, very white looking. Ali is always white, almost a white Persian figure. And it makes sense because, you know, Iran and Persia, that part adopted Shiaism. Shia Islam was adopted by them, you know, from the 15th, 16th century, you know. The Safawiyin, they call them, the Safavids. The Safawiyin bil Arabi, right? They call it. Also, the usurpers, as I see from Abu Bakr and Umar, etc., of the caliphate, the usurpers of the Khilafah, they're all black actors, you notice. So it's typical, you know, pro-Iranian light skin kind of, you know, fascination towards anything dark skin is evil, right? So Umar is a black character, Abu Bakr is a black character, as you know, ethnically, and they're the usurpers. So it's that whole racial element within Shia Islam in particular as well. Anything dark skin is seen as evil, and light skin is wow. You know, Ali is white. The Prophet Muhammad is probably white to them as well, white Persian Iranian type. Also, there's this. Now, for me, when I began practicing Islam, and I was about 18, 19, I started doing my research, and I'm still doing research. The reason why I didn't adopt Shia Islam is for this reason. One thing, this main thing. رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُمْ أَجْمَعِينَ رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُمْ أَجْمَعِينَ. That jumla, this sentence, and this dua, may Allah be pleased with all of them, meaning all of the Sahaba, all of Ahlul Bayt, all of them. Why? Because for me, that encompasses the rahmah and the samaha and the mercy and the tolerance of Islam. And it's an attitude that yes, they were human beings, whether they be the companions, whether they be the family's prophet, they were human beings. And we don't see them as infallible or sinless. They will make mistakes, and they did make mistakes. Adi, this isn't an aqeedah, this is a normal thing. So within that, may Allah be pleased with all of them. I prefer may Allah be pleased with all of them rather than may Allah be pleased just with a few. Just with a few of them. And the other ones, they're a bit messed up and they're not right and they're probably going to the hellfire. For me, that sat better for me as Islam. It wasn't a sectarian way of looking at it. It wasn't selective. It wasn't an elitist Islam. And unfortunately, the Shia thought, which is why I wasn't convinced, it is a very elitist Islam. It's an elitist way of thinking. You know, a lot of the Shia, they have problems with the kingdom of Saudi Arabia and all these subhanallah, all these muluk and all these sovereign kingdoms and kings. But you know, let's be honest, if it was Shia kings or Shia leaders, a king will say, you respect me because I'm your king and I have authority in terms of money and status or wealth. Well, if it was a Shia leader, guess what? He has divine authority over you. He will have divine prerogative to do what he wants with you, and you can't say diddly squat or jack. And for me, that's even more dangerous. That is more dangerous than Malikun Sunni, min Malik Sunni Jabbar, from a tyrannical Sunni king. Why? Because the Shia, he'll have divine authority. He'll walk all over you. Khalas, sami'na wa ta'na. You have divine blood. You are so special. You can do what you want. And this is not in our deen anyway. We don't believe it. Look at the Quran. If you read the Quran, you can understand the difference in Sunni Shia Islam. Sunni Islam is based all around the Quranic concept. Shia Islam is based on very specific verses that they interpret very negatively. A lot of their manhaj is not even based on Quran, unfortunately. It's based on hadith, their own hadith that they have, their own historical narrations. Right? We have Sahih Sitta, we have Bukhari, Muslim, etc. They also have hadith. Right? But ours is far more Quranic centric. Theirs is not Quran centric. Theirs is Quran centric with a specific, with a specific lens a sectarian Shia lens. They see Abu Bakr as they'll find you verses about Abu Bakr being a munafiq, na'udhu billah. And one of the Shia brothers years ago said, when he was in the ghar, Allah says Thani Ithnain, and he was in the with the Prophet ﷺ when they were making hijrah, and he was in the cave and he was crying, and he said, he was crying, he's crying. Can you see? That's because he was a coward. A'udhu billah, bro. How do you read and understand it like that? And then, with this Yasir al-Khabitha, he sees his istidlal from the Quran in Surah al-Talaq. A lot of them refer to Surah al-Talaq, al-Tahrim, Surah al-Tahrim, the chapter of Tahrim, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is rebuking some of the wives of the Prophet because he was a bit upset with what happened, فَمَنْ أَنْبَأَكَ هَذَا قَالَ نَبَّأَنِي الْعَلِيمُ الْخَبِيرُ. Who told you about that? He goes, then the most knowing and the most revealing and the most well acquainted told me about that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when certain things happened between them, and one of the wives was surprised that the Prophet knew about it, right? قَدْ سَغَتْ قُلُوبُكُمَا, he says, and your hearts have become kind of, maybe, I want to get the right translation here, but it's about their hearts basically inclining towards that which was wrong. But we see that as a human element, the Sunnis. But the Shias take things to the next level out of their emotionalism, unfortunately, and how the lens that they use is a very, very emotional lens. And that never sat right with me as someone that was researching into Islam when I began to practice 20 years ago. It never sat right with me. It was emotional. And me, I work in mental health, right? If you look at this term in CBT, they call it reframing. Reframing is, you told the client, okay, I understand that you're afraid of taking the plane, and you don't like heights, so hence you don't want to go to the destination or holiday because you don't want to go on a flight anyway. You want to reframe it. Well, in fact, they call it psychoeducation. Psychoeducation is, in fact, more accidents happen on the road in car accidents than in a plane. So when you start teaching them this, you're reframing their perspective basically. So when, unfortunately, a lot of a Shia kind of methodology, they read the Quranic verses, everything is based on this agenda. There was a prophet and his family and Ali, and he basically got usurped and they got done over. And these are the people that are responsible. Everything is based around this. So the whole Shia ideology, for me, this is how I understood it. Yeah, someone correct me, no problem. Is there was a conspiracy. So the whole faith to me is based on a conspiracy. It was a huge conspiracy, and they all came against the Prophet's family, and they didn't want him to be a leader. And those that came against are all evil. And this is what has never sat right with me. It's for me, from going back to mental health, emotionally speaking, and from a perspective of mental health, it is unhealthy. It really is unhealthy. That's why amongst the Shia, popular thought and practices, being very emotional, hitting themselves in Muharram and stuff like that, it goes part and parcel with their ideology. It makes sense to them. Everything is, we got screwed over. This is what happened. And the Prophet's family, and they got madhlumeen, and they were oppressed, and they weren't given the leadership, and all the Sunnah and the Sahaba, they turned against them, and only a few of them were left as Muslims and mu'mineen. And then everything's emotional, everything's a conspiracy. That's why it didn't sit right with me. I thought, to be honest, it was a perfect ingredients for a mental health crisis. When you're reading the Book of Allah and you're seeing all these things as negative, everything is negative. So going back to CBT and reframing. Now you come to Sunni Islam, it's radiyallahu anhum ajma'een. There's less hate going on, man. There's less hatred. There's less conspiracy theories going on. And again, this is everything happened after the Prophet's demise. It's posthumous, right? So it's a historical reading of events in reality. But they took it obviously to a next level and understood the Quran as such. But I thought I'd share that. There's so much more I can say. The propaganda is just desperate. Where did they get the money from? And this particular individual who's sitting in London, very secret location in a masjid, no one knows where it is. Why is everything hidden? Why is it all hidden? Why don't you show, give an address where you are? Oh, I know, because I can sit in London secretly with my TV channel, which they call Fadak. Fadak, which is that we ransom you, it means, right? Again, Fadak TV, and it's on YouTube. And he says all these disgusting things against Sunnis and against our mother, subhanAllah. And the Sahaba, he calls Umar a kafir. When he says the Sunnis, he refers as Bakriyin. We are Bakriyin, right? Follows Abu Bakr, right? He doesn't even call us Muslims. He doesn't. So this is extreme, divisive, insightful Shia ideology. And again, they are good Shias. They don't believe in any of this. These are far right. There are those that are moderate. There are those that are very, very liberal. Of course, you get that with Sunnis as well. So I thought I'd give you that disclaimer now at the end. Anyway, yeah. Why are you hiding? Why are you in hiding, Yasser Al-Habib? Why are you in hiding? Why you can't show where your location is? Because you know you speak filth. And then the second question is, the British government, those above that allowed this to happen, like the announcement that came from Birmingham Cineworld, yeah, on Broad Street. We did not, it came from above. We do not want bad relations with our community, and they took the film down. It came from above. Why is it the British government allowed this divisive, sectarian, dangerous individual sit in London in his own mosque, broadcast around all the cinemas around the country? Why did the British government, or those above in authority, in the British Film Institute, why did they allow it? That's the real question. They want division. They want us to be divided. It suits their agenda. Divide and conquer. Allah barik feekum. These are some of my thoughts I'll share about what's going on in the UK. And with this particular film in the background, read about it. This is why I personally did not become Shia, and that's why I want to share that story with you. I find it from a mental health perspective as well, emotionally very unstable. The readings, the lens that they use is very negative, I find. And for me, radiyallahu anhum ajma'een, may Allah be pleased with all of them, and within that means may Allah forgive them as well, is far more closer to the Islamic sentiment of mercy and forgiving and understanding, because we're all human beings. Allah yabarak feekum. Assalamu alaikum.